We are on the bottom of 28b. Chavches Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. And we ended off the Mishnah. You have it?
I'm just turning my Folio to it.
Okay.
I see it.
Good. So the Mishnah says that all 7 days you're supposed to make your sukkah your primary residence and your house your temporary residence. And then it went into the rain. What happens if it rains? We'll get to that in a minute. The Gemara thus brought a proof from the word teshvu. The Torah says that you should sit in the sukkah. You should sit in a permanent manner, as opposed to your house, which is now a temporary dwelling. And the last thing the Gemara said that you should learn in your sukkah, and that's where we're going to go on. Aini, is that so? Are you supposed to actually learn in your sukkah? V'amar Rava, and Rava says, Mikra u'mishnah b'matlasa, that one could go ahead and learn scripture and learn mishnayis, which is later, in your sukkah. But Tanui bar matlasa, but Gemara, Shas, which is the heavier learning, should be done outside the sukkah. So why is the Mishnah? Why are we stating that one should delve into studying in the Mishnah in the sukkah? If elsewhere it says you should stay outside the sukkah, and the reason is that when it comes to learning and studying deep Gemara, you're sort of a way you're painting yourself. Like the Rambam says that the proper way for one to reach the right level of Torah scholarship is to sleep on the floor and to drink only water and eat only bread. There's a certain amount of pain you have to go through to properly to become an accomplished Torah scholar. So now, if you're going to be paying yourself, you're not. So whatever the reason is, so therefore you shouldn't be doing it in the sukkah. That is what I think is understand. So like Hasha, habi migras, habi inui. No, there's 2 different types of Gemara learning. One is more quick, clear Gemara, where you're just quickly either it's an easy Gemara, so you're able to go through it quickly, easy to understand, or perhaps you're chazering it, you're reviewing it, so you already know the material. But the other is hab inui. One was pulling the depth of Gemara logic. That when it gets extremely hard, that should be done outside the sukkah. Now we're on the top of Chavtes Amud Aleph. Kiha Barchama, like that of Barchama. Kihavu Kaima Mikmeid Rav Chisda. They went when they were studying in front of Rav Chisda, or rather before when they were studying in front of Rav Chisda, Marhati b'Gemara b'Hadadi Adadi. They would quickly run over the Gemara together. So that's the lighter way of doing it. And after they studied it and they knew the material, the superficial material well, or rather the text well, then they would go back and actually analyze the logic of the Gemara. It's that part is the more complicated part, and that should be done outside the sukkah. Now, once we're talking about what should be done inside or outside the sukkah, we're going to go into explain what should be taken in, what should be taken out. Amarava, ma'ani mishdai b'mitlasa. You can leave the cups in the sukkah. Ma'ani michla bar mitlasa, but the eating utensils after they're done, which they get dirty, should be taken out. Chatzva v'schil bar mitlasa, that earthenware jugs and wicker bucket and or something like woven type of baskets, low quality baskets, should be taken outside the sukkah. Sharg matlasa, a lamp could be in the sukkah. But else we learned that a lamp should be outside the sukkah. If it's a regular size sukkah, it's fine, you can have a lamp. But if it's an exactly sized sukkah, a 7x7, and having a lamp on the floor is going to take away from the 7x7, now you'll be left with an invalid sukkah. Therefore, if it's a perfectly sized sukkah katana, then you should take it out. Okay. Now we're all going on to part of the Mishnah Yardi Kshamim, the part that talks about when is one no longer obligated in the sukkah because of the rain falling. Tana Mishatisra Chamekapa shall grisinin. Now the Mishnah said that when your thick porridge or oatmeal or some type of thick dish becomes ruined, now because of the rain, and we're over here talking about a thick dish made out of beans, and that it with a little amount of rain, it could easily become ruined. So that is the way we go ahead and we analyze and we evaluate if it's time to leave the sukkah. If you have this thick bean stew or some type of bean dish, and it gets ruined with the little amount of rain that will fall, that is when one is permitted to leave the sukkah and is no longer obligated to sit in the sukkah because he is pain. Abaya have a koyosef kameid Rav Yosef b'metlasa. Rabbi Yosef was sitting in front of Rav Yosef in the sukkah. Nashav zika v'chamaisit sivusa, that the wind blew and it brought down splinters from the schach. Amar Rabbi Yosef pnuli ma'ani macha. So Rabbi Yosef says, I'm out. I'm done. I have these little spark chips falling on my head. So Amar Abaya v'tanam mishisrach hamakapa. But did we not learn that from when this type of dish becomes ruined, and we're not there yet? This dish will not become ruined from these splinters falling from the roof, from the ceiling, or from the schach. Amar lei, so he said back, liditit, for me, kivin da anina da dasi da asai, I am a delicate in nature. Kimi tishisracham kafedamiles. For me, it's as if my food is getting ruined. So we see from here that it's not written in stone that one has to evaluate when this bean stew gets ruined. It's just that this bean stew, the norm for most people is to get, for a little bit of rain to ruin it. Whatever the amount of rain that this bean stew gets ruined, that's usually enough to annoy people. That amount of rain is to annoy people. But if you have someone who's extremely delicate and finicky, even less than that, and for someone that could take a little more, he could take a little more. Okay, Tan Rabbanan. If one is in the sukkah and the rain starts to fall, v'yarad, and then he leaves because of the rain. Now the question is, does he have to return? He does not have to return to the sukkah until his su'udah is finished. Meaning, if I pick myself up from the sukkah and walk out because of the rain, and then it stops raining, but I already settled down in my house, there is no obligation to return to the sukkah. That's for eating. So as long as I'm continuing that meal, I'm fine. There's no reason to go back to the sukkah. But if someone's sleeping in the sukkah, and then rain falls, we do not make him go back. We don't obligate him to go back to the sukkah until yar is dawn. So it seems like we're saying is that until dawn, until the next morning, until the break of dawn, or until the light starts to rise up, then one is permitted to stay in his bed even though the rain stopped. Now, Ibayluhu ach yar, did you mean to say with an ayin, which means until he wakes up, meaning if he wakes up in the middle of the night and he happens to look outside and sees that it stopped raining, then he will be obligated? Ach yar, or until dawn, until light. So we're not sure, does he have to, can he stay in bed even if it stops raining and he woke up? Or because we're waiting for dawn, or no, it means to wake up. And once he wakes up and realizes that it stops raining, then he has to go back to the sukkah. Meaning his wife doesn't have to come wake him up, telling him, "Oh, get up, kick him out of the house because it stopped raining." But if he wakes up, he has to. So which one is it? So Tashma, we're going to try to bring a proof to that. It said elsewhere. It says that he doesn't have to return to sukkah until till the light arises. And it's the break of dawn, when the first light arises. So which one is it? Is it until the house? It can't be. It's sort of superfluous because first it says till the light arises, and then it says the break of dawn. So it must be the first yar with an aleph is really it's like Gmara asks tarti. So why are you saying it twice? You're being repetitive. El ema has to be at yar until he wakes up. V'yala amud hashachar, and it's amud hashachar. So in order to be obligated to go back to the sukkah, has to be A, he woke up, B, it's already light time. So if he's sleeping, you have to fulfill both. So either you have to wait till you wake up and it's already daytime. So if it's already daytime but he's still sleeping late into the morning, still he doesn't have to wake up. He's not obligated to go into the sukkah until he actually wakes up. Or if he wakes up early at night, in the middle of the night, he still could go back to sleep because it is not morning yet. Any questions?
Nope.
Oh, I see someone just joined, or joined at some point. We are on the two dots on Chavtas Amar Aleph on 29a, about 3 lines up from the wide lines by the 2 dots. Now, the Mishnah stated that when it starts raining and we're forced out of our sukkah, it's a parable to a eved, a servant, that brings water to brings wine to his master, and it says, and the wine is thrown onto his face. So the question, Gemara asked the question as this: who threw the wine to who? Meaning, was it the servant? Maybe he by mistake whipped his cup and it splashed his master, or is it vice versa that the master took the cup and splashed into the face of the servant? So let's see. Tashma. Let's come in here. The Tani will learn. Shafach lo rabbi kitin al panav v'amar lo efshi bishmaischa. That the master picked up. Elsewhere we learn that the master. It says if a master, as if someone's pouring wine for his master, and it gets thrown back in his face. And the master tells him, "I don't want your service," meaning that it's the master that takes the cup and throws it in the face of the servant, and he says, "Michael Tavis, I don't need any favors. I don't want your service. Please move on." That's when we're in the sukkah, trying to fulfill the mitzvah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, and starts writing as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, I don't need you. You're not. I don't need your mitzvah of sukkah is not worthy enough for me. Therefore, please leave. That's what it is comparable to. So Ton Rabbanan. Now, once we're talking that, which is a bad sign, obviously, it means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not very happy with us. Now,
sometimes it's raining for. Sometimes he's just making it rain for other reasons, not just necessarily that one.
So I said yesterday that there are those who say that in a city or a climate that's normal to rain during that time, then there's no Siman Klal. This is really much specific for Eretz Yisrael, where it's unusual to rain during that season. Even Portland, maybe. I don't know when the season in Portland starts, but it's definitely more for Bavel, I guess Persia, that area of the world where it never rains in the summer, or elsewhere in the world where it never rains.
It starts the day before Labor Day.
Starts. Still. Tana Rabbanim. Bizman shacham loike, siman ra l'chalaylam. When so now once we're talking about bad omens, bad signs, and curses, we are going to go through a whole slew of them. Tana Rabbanim. Bizman shacham loike, that when the sun is hit. Now, this means more to say that there's insufficient light, or other people understand that it's an eclipse, that the light of the sun is diminished in whatever manner that it is. Usually it's an eclipse. It's a bad sign for the entire world. What's this a parable to? That he makes a grand feast for all his servants, and then he puts a lantern in front of all of them. Kasalem, he gets upset with them, meaning the lantern is the sun. Then he gets upset with them. Then he tells he tells the people serving him, "Please remove this lamp. I'm upset at the people at the table. Please remove the lamp," and so they can sit in the dark. That's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the light is diminished, Hashem saying, it's a sign that Hashem is putting the sun there for our benefit and for our light. And when he removes some of that light, it's a sign showing that he feels that we're not worthy of it. Tani Rameir Omer calls man Shema Oyros Loikin, that whenever the moon and the stars are also, meaning when there's a lunar eclipse, or somehow the light of the stars become diminished. Simanra l'seneim shel Yisrael, it's a bad sign for the haters of Israel, which really just means Israel itself. It's a bad sign for Kollel Yisrael when the moon gets hit. Now, the reason is that when such a thing happens, it's not good for the world, number one. And we should learn, because when the nation that got punished the most throughout history was the Jewish nation. So when we see something happening, something bad taking place, we should be aware and say, since the majority of the time we take the hit, that means the hit's going to come on us. That's what it means to say is that it's a bad sign when the moon becomes covered, because mashal, and it brings a parable, the sefer, Shabbat Beis HaSefer, there is a child that comes to school, and he has a whip in his hand. Now, midaig, who's the one who worries the most? When this kid walks through the door of the schoolhouse with a whip in his hand, who worries the most? The one who gets hit by the master or by the teacher every day, he's the one that worries, because since he gets hit every single day from whoever it is, when he sees the whip, he knows that eventually it's going to come upon his back quicker than anyone else, because that's what the statistics is, that he gets hit first. So the same thing, when bad things are happening in the world, since statistics are that we, unfortunately, due to our own faults, we get punished the most, then we should be wary and to understand that it's only a matter of time before it hits us. Tana Rabbanan, that when the sun gets hit, it's a bad sign for the non-Jews. Livna loika levana, when the moon gets hit, again, it's a bad sign for the Jews themselves. Now this is more of a reason why one over the other, because we are compared to the moon. The moon waxes and wanes, right? That's us. Sometimes we're strong, and sometimes we fall to the ground. Plus, we have a lunar calendar, a lunar solar calendar. And the non-Jews are compared to the sun. The sun is, throughout history, pretty much they were always the dominant ones. Therefore, they're like the sun. Plus, they usually follow the solar calendar. Now we're going to go into the specifics of where the light is diminished. Like a b'mizrach, if at the time when the light's diminished, the sun's in the east, meaning it's morning time, simra le'yishim mizrach, it's bad for the people in the east. B'mayrev, if it's in the evening time when this takes place, simra le'yishim ma'rev, it's not a good, it's a bad sign for those who live in the east. That those who live in the west.
Why is it bad?
No, because we said till now that whenever the sun is diminished, it's a siman ra, it's a bad sign.
I see.
Now we're saying that wherever it depends, if the eclipse or whatever, the diminished light took place in the east, then it's a bad sign for the people in the east.
Can you give me a real world example?
Of what?
Real-time example. Talking about the situation where if we see X happening, then for sure it means Y bad for the Yiddish.
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, we'll never know the specifics. It just says something bad will happen. We never know us. We're not prophets.
Well, give me an example of this sort of negative omen that you're describing here.
An eclipse, if there's a solar eclipse, I guess, and the sun can't be seen, and that happens in the Western Hemisphere, we say it's bad for the people in the Western Hemisphere.
It's like metaphoric.
It could be metaphoric, but
Okay,
I just never. That's a little deep, and I wouldn't have. It's for sure metaphoric. That's 100%. It is metaphoric. Nothing to talk about. If it is also practical, I don't know.
Right.
Go back 2,000 years to the people who read the constellations. I don't know. The Emserikia, if it's in the middle, meaning if it's during the day, noontime, it's bad. It's a bad omen for everyone. Cool. Panav doimin ladam. At times, if the surface of the sun is red, like blood, then it means that war is coming to the world. Lasak, if it's like a sak is like usually is a sackcloth with, but usually made out of goat's hair. Goat's hair is dark. And the arrows of hunger, meaning there's going to be a famine that come to the world that blackens people's faces. If it's red and dark, then that means there is the sword war and hunger and famine coming to the world. Now, what happens if this type of diminishing light of the sun takes place when the sun leaves, meaning in the evening time, in Shkia? Then it means that since it took place at the end of the day, means the eventual calamity that will take place is going to take a long time for it to happen. Just like it's only set towards the end of the day, it took a long time for the light to be diminished. But if you did it, if the light of the sun was diminished first thing in the morning, Meharis Lavai, just like it just arose and immediately was diminished. Therefore, we know it's a sign that the whatever is going to take place is going to take place very quick. Some say we switch around that order. That if it rises in the morning, that means it's going to take a long time for the calamity to take place. But if the diminishing light happens in the evening, then it's going to happen right away. Okay. Now, once you're talking about getting punishment, we're going to continue on that. There's no nation in the world that when it gets hit, meaning when a calamity takes place on that nation, then it's God, which really means over here it's Malach. Every nation has its angel protecting over it. Then its angel is also being punished. Nemar I says it with all the gods of Egypt, I will do justice. So over here we understand that we're doing justice. We're really not going to do justice to their idol. There's nothing to do justice with. They're just pieces of stone. And it says that the representatives in the high heavens, meaning their angel. When we, Bnei Yisrael, do the will of Hashem, Ein misyarin mikol elu. There's nothing for us to be afraid of. So everything we said, all the samanim, all the signs with the sun being diminished and the moon being diminished, if we are doing what we have to do, we're doing everything properly, then none of this could really affect us. None of it takes place. None of it's going to affect us. Like it says, Ki Amar Hashem El Derech Hagoyim Al Talamdu. Do not learn the ways of the foreigners. And when that happens, when you are fulfilling your life as a Jew and not as others, then you don't have to be afraid of the signs of the heavens. Because at that point, only one who should be afraid are the non-Jews and the idol worshippers. However, the Israelites do not have to be concerned. Okay. Now, once we start talking about the sun, we're going to go on that topic. So, because of 4 specific reasons, the sun's light would be diminished. On a great sage in Israel, or over here, the Bezdin, the head of the Bezdin, if he passed away and they didn't properly eulogize him, they didn't properly mourn the fact that he passed, such a great giant passed away. Or if there is a girl, or really a young woman who is being raped in the streets and she was crying for help and no one came to her. And on homosexuality, and on two brothers who got killed at once. That they were killed. It looks like if someone on a killing spree killed 2 brothers at once, as if there's 2 relatives whose life was taken. It's 2 brothers were murdered at once. Now that's the sun. There's 4 reasons why the moon and stars will lose their light. That if someone forges documents, and he's utilizing it to steal from others. From someone who testifies falsely. Someone raises small animals. Usually behemoth is refers to goats and sheep, which could be not. I'm not sure, because you're supposed to raise goats and sheep in Eretz because that's part of the karbanis. So I'm not actually sure exactly what type of animal. If anyone tells me in our school on the footnotes of exactly what animal I'm talking about, but whatever it is, if you're growing animals that are very light, small, and they're very hard to control, you can't herd them. So I assume we're not talking about sheep.
Cats.
There you go, cats, and they destroy the produce of Eretz Yisrael.
Ooh.
So they're destroying the land which we're supposed to protect. That is something that is not cool. Someone that cuts down a good tree, meaning I'm assuming a good fruit tree. So be careful about that. That was for the sun and moon. And there are 4 reasons why Balbatim mean homeowners, meaning people of substantial wealth. They have okay financial standing. All of a sudden they lose all their property. What's the reason? Now, now, if they had a loan and there was a written document, someone owed the money and they got the money back, and instead of ripping it up, they kept it for a few years to come back and collect it again. So that is a terrible thing, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu will punish them in kind. So Al Mulave Baribis, and we turn to the top of Chavtas on the base, on the top of 29b, on someone that loaned with interest. Someone, if they have the ability to protest against a bad deed that took place in their community, and since they're wealthy, people automatically listen to them, whether they're intelligent or not. It doesn't make a difference. That's the nature of the world. Wealthy people think are automatically, you think they're extremely intelligent.
I think it's Fiddler on the Roof.
What?
Fiddler on the Roof.
I never saw Fiddler on the Roof. Wow.
I couldn't hear you, Steve.
He's saying Fiddler on the Roof. For those who watch Fiddler on the Roof, there's a reference to Fiddler on the Roof. You have to go watch it. But yeah, whatever the reason is, wealthy people automatically are. You can win a lottery, and all of a sudden people think you're extremely smart, and they don't protest. And since if they protest, people actually listen to them, and they let whatever happened take place in the community without stepping up and taking care of it. And if they pledge money in public and they don't fulfill their pledge. Okay. That is the 4 reasons why they lose money. Now there are... Yeah. Okay, the previous reason was that they lose... The previous 4 reasons is that the reason why the government will take away their property. This is 4 reasons why the next 4 reasons are why Baal Batim, that their property just disappear, like a stock market crash, like everything just dissipates. That if you don't pay someone that worked for you immediately, and someone that steals someone doesn't, not only does he pay up, he doesn't pay up eventually, he never pays up. If they have a yoke, if they have a responsibility, something they have to do, and they take it from themselves and they place it on others to do. And on haughtiness. And the haughtiness is the worst of them all. When it comes to those that are humble, right? And the humble will inherit the land. It's angu al roiv shalim. And they will enjoy the great amount of peace. Hadron Allah Hayashan. And with that, we've just finished the second parak, and we're going to start the third parak on Chav Tes on the base. Any questions on that?
I assume. We'll come back to it later. It'll take a while.
Okay, Lulav Hagazel. Now, the next parak, next 2 parakim, we're going to be talking about the Lulav and the Esrig and the 4 species. Okay, so it's going to be a little more complicated than previously. Lulav Hagazel, a stolen Lulav, the Hayavish Pasul. If one has a stolen Lulav on Sukkah and a dried out lulav, they're both invalid. Shall Ashira v'shal ira hanidachas pasul. If it's from an Ashira tree is a tree that was worshipped as avodah zarah. V'shal ira hanidachas, and a city that was over 50% of the population were found to serve they're found guilty of idol worship. So the whole city has to be burnt. And everything in the city has to be burnt down as well. So you holding a lulav from a tree that was in an irani dachas, then there's really it's supposed to be burnt. Therefore, it's an invalid lulav, and the Gemara will talk about it further. Nikdam roishai, if the top is cut off, nifrtsu alav, or if the branches are torn off, pasul, then it's going to be invalid. Nifrdu alav, but if it's just nifrdu alav kasher. However, if it's just separated, then it's going to be valid. Rabbi Yehuda Omer yagdu milamala. Rabbi Yehuda said that we have to go ahead and we are supposed to go ahead and bind the lulav from the top. Sine, fine. Now, Sine harabarzel ksheris. If you have it from harabarzel, the Gemara is going to explain this is a specific type of palm tree from a specific type of place, and that is kosher. We'll have to explain what the issue is. It's something to do with the leaves coming out from the lulav is lower than the spine. Lulav sheish leishleisha tefachim k'dei lanea by kosher. The lulav needs to be at least 3 tefachim of a spine, so it has to be at least about that height of a spine, and it has to have, Rashi explains, the Gemara explains, also has to have a tefach in order to shake it. So you need to have 3 tefachim of a spine, plus the leaves have to go above the spine, at least 1 tefach to be able to give it the shape. Okay, let's start the Gemara. Kapasik v'tani, loishna b'yom tov rishon, loishna b'yom tov sheni. Now, the Mishnah that was talking about one does not have a stolen lulav, it says, elsewhere it said, it doesn't make a difference whether this is the first day of Yom Tov or the second day of Yom Tov in outside Eretz Yisrael. Now, the first, meaning this halacha of not having a stolen lulav applies practically across the entire Yom Tov, whether it's first day or second day. Now, Bishlema, unless we have a question, Bishlema Yavesh, Hadar Bi'inan, and also not only a stolen lulav, but also not only a stolen lulav, but also a dry lulav. So both of them have to be all yomtiv. Now, bishlema yavesh, if it's going to be yavesh, if it's the dried out one, hadar be'inon faleka. Now, that we understand why it has to be the entire yomtiv, because even though that the deraisa is only the deraisa of lulav is only on the first day. The rest of it is only rabbinic outside the Beis Hamikdash, which we don't have. So then, therefore, it's all rabbinic. But so why would we care if you're taking what's the problem with a dried out lulav? So that we understand because it's a hiddur. It has to be beautiful, and we're not even for the even for the rabbinic stuff. Yeah.
Could it be a dried out lulav so you don't hold it shaped properly?
Well, let's say it is shaped properly.
Yeah.
Let's say it is shaped. Let's say it is shaped properly. Yeah, that could be a problem. But that's even if it's not dried out, if it's not shaped properly, it'll be a problem, right? So regardless. So that we understand because the Torah says that it has to be beautiful, and it's not beautiful. So even the rabbis would agree that you didn't accomplish the mitzvah. El Goizel, if it's stolen, if it's the first day, which is a biblical commandment to take the lulav, the Torah says you should take for yourself, mishalchem, from yourself, and not from someone else. Now we understand why that would be a problem on the first day. But on the second day, of Yom Tiv, that we have a question, because the Torah says in order to accomplish the araisa, I understand it has to be not for yours, no one else's, but why rabbinically? So b'Yom Tiv sheni amai. Why on the second day of Yom Tiv, which is only rabbinic, there's no halacha, there's no problem of lachem, it doesn't have to be of yours. So Amar Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Shimon ben Yochai. So the answer, we're going to go to the top of 38. Mishum dahavale mitzvah haba ba'avera, because it's a mitzvah that came through an avera. Shenemar va'voisem gozul vesha paiseach esachayla. Now the reason is that the problem is because it's a mitzvah that came through an avera. Now, how do we know a mitzvah that came through an avera is a problem? Because the pasuk says. It said that you bring that one goes ahead and brings a carbon, and the carbon's lame, or it's sick, or it's stolen, right? All three are not a good carbon. Now, a stolen one is like a lame one. Less like the kamta, just like a lame animal. There's no fix. There's no way to fix a lame animal. It's not kosher. You're not going to be able to use it. Afgaza less like the kanta. Also, a stolen one has no fix. Now, also, it doesn't help us whether the owner gave up on the item. If I stole a lulav and the owner is he gave up on it. He doesn't plan on ever. He understands it got stolen and it's gone. He's never going to have it back in his hand. Doesn't make difference if he gave up on it or not. Still, it's not a good. We understand that that just like a lame animal, it doesn't work. Also, a stolen animal, it's not going to work. So we're learning from there that just like a lulav, which is invalid due to if it's deformed, it's not going to be kosher even for the rabbis, even to accomplish the rabbinic commandment of the second day and the rest of Yom Tov. Therefore, also the same with the stolen lulav, it won't work for the rest of Yom Tov. Now, and that we ask, if we understand if the owner did not give up, we understand why it's invalid. We understand that somehow we have to be able to take it. It has to be yours, and once it's stolen, it's still not yours. So that because of the verse that we learned from, just like you can't fix a lame animal, you can't use a stolen animal. Therefore, we're going to drag that halacha of guzzle across the board for the entire Yom Tov. Yeah.
Rabbi, I had to pause one to download the next few pages. Can you tell me where we are on Lamed Aleph?
Yeah, we're 6 lines down.
Okay.
It says Amar Rachmana is the last word on the line. Rachmana.
Okay.
So we understand why if they didn't give up on it, it's not yours yet. You don't own it yet. So that's going to be a problem. But after yush, it is yours. Because even if the halacha is, if you steal something and the owner gives up, halachically, you have taken ownership of it, even though you stole it, if the owner gives up. That's the halacha. So
But
even though
I have to ask to circle back to that one after class.
it's just that halachically, you are now responsible. It's yours, even though now you still have to pay back. If you're found proven to be guilty that you stole it, you still have to pay back double. So once he gives up, it's the owner.
This is about responsibility. Can he use it even though it's stolen?
So that's what we're trying to say.
The guy gives up because he can actually use it.
That's what we're trying to say. Maybe you should. Maybe you should be able to use it even though it's stolen. Now you are responsible to pay back, but at the end of the day, he gave up. So it's like hefker. So if you picked it out of hefker, that's halacha. So halachically, you have taken ownership of this item. So what's the reason that one is not allowed to go ahead and use an item? The answer is because it's a mitzvah that came through an aveira, and any mitzvah that came through an aveira, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the rabbis said that you're not allowed to go ahead and use and use it. So that's the answer. The reason why you can't use a lulav, a gazelle, the reason why you can't using a lulav, which was stolen, is because the reason I can't use it is because the reason I can't use a lulav which is stolen. Number one, on the first day of Sukkah is because it's daraisa. It says lachem. It has to be yours. Now the rest of, but that's not going to answer the question fully, because even though it's not yours, if you acquired it because the owner gave up, even though you stole it, halachically it's yours. So why can't you use it on the first day of Pesach? On Sukkot, and the rest of it? The answer is because it came to an aveira, and you're not supposed to use. You can't fulfill a mitzvah that came through an acquirement that you acquired it through an aveira. Is just sort of like it's too much of a paradox for you to actually fulfill the mitzvah. There's a question here. And if he gives it to his friend and the friend doesn't know, is it valid? The friend thinks he stole it.
The friend doesn't know.
No, the friend doesn't know that it's stolen. The friend thinks the guy just gifted it to him.
Oh, you mean a third person?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm assuming, I think this question comes up in halacha, and I think you will accomplish the mitzvah because at the end of the day, it's not your aveira. I have to look it up. It's a good question, as usual. Okay, we're going to go a little bit further. Rabbi Yochanan said the name of Shimon Yochai. Why does it say in Yeshaya that I'm Hashem that loves justice, but I hate gezel, I hate robbery in a karban? It's a parable to a melech basar v'dam who goes past the tax house. He tells the servant, he says to them, meaning he tells his own servants, pay the tax to the taxman. I guess it's a type of a toll booth, right? So you have the king paying the toll. Like, why are you paying it? It's going right back into your pocket. So everyone's going to learn from me and understand if the king is paying himself, even though it's going straight back into his own pocket, then we all should pay up. HaKadosh Baruch Hu also says, I am a Kadosh Baruch Hu who hates stolen burnt offerings. Just like I hate people are paying me with their stolen offerings, and I say no, I reject it. Others will learn to reject. I will learn to reject also things that are stolen. Now, Itmar Nami. Now we're going back to halacha. Amram Ami. Others say it. Yavish possible ein hadar. A dried out lulav is invalid because it's not beautiful. The stolen one is because it is a mitzvah that came through a from the bear. Now upligi Rabbi Yitzchak. Now this opinion is arguing Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Nachmani Amar Shmuel. that Rabbi Yitzchak says the name of the son of Nachmani says the name of Shmuel. This whole halacha of the Mishnah is only going on the first day of Yom Tiv. On the rest of the days of Yom Tiv, which the halacha of taking the lulav is only rabbinic, just like one could. The Torah says, Lachem, it has to be yours. But if on the second day you're able to accomplish the halacha, you're able to accomplish the mitzvah by just borrowing it and not acquiring it, then the same thing should happen to the rest of Yom Tiv as well. So we have a machlekes. This Mishnah of a stolen lulav, does that apply to all day of Yom, all 7 days? And the reason why you cannot take it is because it came through an avera, or like you have like others, you have like Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. That's you have like you have just bar Nachmani that says no, the Mishnah is going only on the first day of Yom Tiv, and that's all. Okay, we are going.